Your attorneys have said they're not participating in the impeachment procedure. Is that something you approved of, and are you going to be there?
Well, I have a responsibility as the governor of Illinois, who was elected twice by the people of Illinois, to think beyond just me, because this issue is much larger than just me. In many ways, I'm immaterial. What's really at stake here is whether or not a legislature can undo the choice of the people who've elected a governor and then remove that governor from office without giving that governor a chance to fundamental due process with something as basic and as simple as the right to call a witness so you can confront those who have said things about you that aren't true. And if I can't call witnesses like Rahm Emanuel, President Obama's chief of staff, who has said that in his contacts with me on the issue of the Senate seat there was nothing inappropriate, if I can't call witnesses like Valerie Jarrett, who's a top staffer for President Obama, who has said the same in interviews with the FBI, or Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr., and a whole series of congressmen and U.S. senators and others, then
upon whose statements and testimony you're charged with, at least mentioned in the criminal complaint.
That's correct. If I can't have a chance to be able to refute those allegations by bringing witnesses like that in, then the whole thing is a farce. It's prearranged, and it's designed, really, to get rid of me so they can raise taxes on people. The hidden story behind this rush to judgment by the legislature is get me out of the way so Pat Quinn and the legislature can sock it to the taxpayers. They've been trying to do this for 6 years. I've stood in the way of an income tax increase, and there's already a bill floating through the legislature that wants to raise the sales tax on gas by 8 cents a gallon. They want to raise taxes on people. If that is their motivation, they ought to say what it is. But at the end of the day, to abrogate the Constitution, to deny due process to any citizen, however high or low that citizen might be, and do a rush to judgment, not give me a chance to have witnesses, is wrong. And I'm not going to be a party to something like that. And whatever the consequences are to me, I'll face those, because the larger issue at stake is the fundamental rights of citizens in our country.
So you're not going to be there on Monday. Your attorneys are not going to be there on Monday, and then the automatic plea of not guilty according to the rules.
That's right. Now, we'd love to work with them and have rules fair so we can aggressively show that I've done nothing wrong and have done almost everything right. I'd love to be able to bring witnesses in. I'd like to have the governor of Wisconsin or the governor of Kansas or the governor of Vermont or Senator McCain or Senator Kennedy come in and talk about how they worked with me to go to Canada to get cheap medicine for our senior citizens so they can afford their groceries and pay their medical bills. I'd like to have an opportunity to bring in, as I said, those high-ranking government officials who I talked to about the Senate seat. But unless and until they give me a chance to bring a witness in to defend myself, it would be wrong for me to participate in a farce like that that undermines the Constitution and undermines what it would be like for future governors chosen by the people to deal with a legislative process. Think about what's going to happen to the next governor when he or she might take office. In this case, he'll be so afraid of taking on the legislature to stand in the way of raising taxes or fighting to provide health care for children, as I've done, because he's afraid the legislature can do what they're going to him, what they're about to try to do to me.
And their contention that they can't call these witnesses because the U.S. attorney has asked them not to and the criminal process is more important. How do you respond to that?
It's very simple. Then take the criminal allegations out, allow the U.S. attorney to prosecute that case in a court of law. I can't wait to have my day in court to prove my innocence. Take that out, and then try to impeach me on providing cheaper prescription drugs for seniors. Remove me from office for providing health care to poor families who the Bush administration took health care away from. Remove me from office because I went and was able to get flu vaccines to help the elderly and sick infants who were going to die from what was then, we were told in 2005, the worst flu epidemic we've seen in years. Impeach me on those things if you think those are impeachable offenses. But don't charge me with criminal allegations and not allow me to bring witnesses in who will show that I didn't violate any criminal laws. If that's the case, allow the U.S. attorney, who appropriately has a case going in the appropriate forum, let that case play out, and let's have a fair impeachment trial in the Senate.
The House leadership has told me that they couldn't do that because they couldn't try to impeach you on the grounds of all those past things until the criminal complaint because there wasn't enough to do it. Isn't there an irony there?
And that's rather the point, that they waited until a criminal complaint came down, and then Rule 15F says, we're not going to allow you to challenge any of those. That's exactly the governor's point here. We're going to say you did these things. We're not going to bring witnesses in to tell you what you did, and you can't call witnesses to say you didn't do those things. That's rather the point here. Yeah. What they're trying to do is go through the back door, what they couldn't get in through the front.
I understand that. On a personal note, how is your family dealing with all this? I mean, Patty reportedly lost her job. Your daughters still have to go to school. How are you dealing with this?
Well, it's a very trying time for us personally, and for our children. Our older daughter, our 12-year-old, who's more aware of this than our 5-year-old. Of course, it's probably the worst thing that we've had to deal with since we've had children, other than the loss of Patty's mom and my mom. But we're working through it, and you know, I have a deep faith and a deep belief that God has a purpose for all things and for all of us. And I just believe that when it all shakes out and the truth comes out, I think people are going to appreciate what I've done for them, how I fought for them, how I took on powerful forces to protect them from special interests who want to raise their taxes and prevent those same families from having opportunities that these lawmakers give themselves, like comprehensive health care and other sorts of things. And I think, again, I just deeply believe in the truth, and at some point that'll come out. And we'll work together as a family, and we'll get through it. And I'm blessed to have a wonderful, beautiful wife who's loving and honest and a great employee. And unfortunately, her employer made a decision understanding what some of their factors might be. But we'll get through it.
Was that ever explained to you or to her, and exactly why that happened?
At this time, I don't think.
Okay.
I think she should probably talk to you about that if she wants
Have
to.
you ever, have you and Sam or any others given any consideration to stepping aside temporarily until this is cleared up, if not outright resigning, to spare your family and everyone?
At this time, we have had no discussions regarding that, and I don't think the governor needs to answer those questions. He has said from the beginning, and you can always tell me if I'm wrong, Gov, he's going to fight, because he knows he has done nothing criminal, he's not done anything wrong, and that is the position in which we're in.
Well, let me say this too, Jay, and appreciate Sam's comments, but there's a higher principle here, and I'm just a vehicle in this higher principle. Again, put me aside, whether I'm the governor or not, whether I stay in or they throw me out. It's whether or not a legislature can have an illegal farce impeachment process to throw a government out. By their own admission, they say that they couldn't sustain an impeachment because of criminal charges. At the same time, they're making allegations, and they won't allow me to bring witnesses in, like Rahm Emanuel, the president's chief of staff, and a lot of other high-ranking people who will show there was nothing inappropriate. So in other words, by their own admission, they're saying that this impeachment is a joke and it's a farce. And again, the consequences to the people of Illinois who've chosen me twice, the consequences to future governors, the consequences to the right of voters to choose their elected officials and not have them undermined by legislators, most of whom are faceless and nameless, and the people don't know who they are, and they go away to faraway state capitals, and they're surrounded by all those special interests, and they do the bidding of the special interests on the backs of the people. That's the big principle that's at stake here. And if I'm a soldier who falls fighting for that principle, democracy, the right of the citizens to choose their leader, and a right to due process, and the fundamental right to call witnesses, defend yourself when someone accuses you falsely of something, then in some respects there's a certain honor to that, and I'm prepared to pay the price.